Welcome to the Living Word Podcast. I am your host, Genevieve, and these episodes serve as a reminder to how essential your fullest expression is on this planet during one of the most transformative times in our history. Together, we are going to explore truth through vulnerable conversations about life's deeper meaning, exploring holistic wellness, mindset, spirituality, entrepreneurship, love, and everything in between. Let's dive in, shall we? Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Living Word. I am going to dive right in today because I am so excited to be having this conversation with an incredible human, Seth Spears. And just his mission statement alone, I think, is really going to intrigue you from the beginning. He's a business strategist for purpose-driven entrepreneurs who value mission over margin and purpose over. Can I get a mic drop at the beginning of this already? And what I love so much about Seth is I met him in a very different way. I actually met the man before I knew the mission. We were at the Joe Dispenza retreat in Cancun, and we met, and I just loved the way that you went about even your communication, your energy, the way you showed up. And it was after that I learned about the mission behind the man, who you were. And I learned that you are the founder and CEO of Wellness, which, funny story about that after, which is, I believe, going to be one of the most sought after holistic websites for products in the world. I'm putting that out there because it's growing really fast. And I know that because I see your products in my friends' bathrooms all the time. And you also just have an amazing extensive background in the world of digital marketing. And what I love the most about what you do is that you really grow and elevate yourself. And in return, you grow and elevate businesses. And I think that's something that the world is really missing. People who walk their own talk, who allow themselves to elevate and in turn do the same for other people. So Seth, thank you for being here. And I would love to just start with introducing yourself and how the heck did you get into the world of not just digital marketing, but in creating massive online brands?
Sure. Thanks, Jen. Happy to be here. Yeah, my story is kind of all over the place. Let's see where to start. So I started a boutique digital marketing agency back in 2010. I had left the last real job that I had, which was in collegiate admissions counseling. And so I went out on my own doing consulting and primarily for helping homeschool students prepare for college because I was actually homeschooled from kindergarten all the way through high school. So the first time I ever sat in a classroom or took notes was my freshman year of college. So I had a very interesting childhood and growing up and very different than a lot of other people. So very non-traditional, which it's gotten a lot more traditional these days. But back then, growing up in Kentucky, very different. So I went out on my own doing consulting for homeschool students to prepare for college. And during that time, I realized that you kind of have to market yourself online. So, but I have a marketing degree, which is actually pretty worthless as far as learning how to market anything, because the entire educational system, which is just not great, it teaches you a lot of theory and not actually practical, applicable things you can do in the marketing space. So I realized that if I'm going to be consulting for students, I need to market myself and get myself out there. So I did a deep dive on teaching myself social media and search engine optimization and doing website design. And in this process, I realized that I actually liked doing all of these things. And there wasn't a whole lot of money to be made in consulting for homeschool students because even though they needed to know how to prepare for college, most of their parents weren't willing to pay for it. So I'm like, hey, I have this skill set now where I know how to build websites. I know how to market myself using social media and Google and all of these other tools that were up and coming. And so I started a boutique digital marketing agency, starting off helping friends and family build websites and get found online. And around that same time, I helped my ex-wife to build a website in the health and wellness space, just as kind of she was a journalism major and had gone back to school for nutrition and trying to figure out her own health issues. And so I built her a site just to kind of document what she was learning and figuring out health for our family and just what she was learning in school. And so I used that as a testing ground for my paying clients. And that website became very, very popular and one of the most popular health and wellness websites for moms and podcast. And then along the way, I started working with a lot of other big names in the health and wellness space and growing their sites and just marketing them and getting more viewers, more podcast listeners, and just more sales for their products. And, along the way, I kind of got really burnt out on client services, as can happen when you're focusing solely on one thing. And I've always had a lot of diverse interests. And so I scaled way back and went all in on growing that website that I have with my ex. It's called wellnessmama.com. And it became this major, major thing. And so along the way, I decided we should launch an e-commerce company because we had tutorials on how to make your own personal care products. So shampoo, conditioner, deodorant, toothpaste, and that's where Wellness came from. So when you hear the same request over and over from readers and listeners, like, I love these products, but I'm tired of making them myself. Will you just make them and sell them? You realize there's probably a good business opportunity there. And so launched that in 2020. And then right around that time is when the mirror started to fall apart. So I had drastic life changes, starting over in an entirely new industry in e-commerce, amicably separating out, and starting over. So it's kind of, in a nutshell, from where I started to where I am now.
Well, it's interesting because hearing about you being homeschooled, right? My dad was a holistic doctor. And so, like, we were the woo woo family back then. He opened his clinic when I was 7 years old, sold his IT firm. And it's not the same, but it's very interesting when you grow up in a very unique situation. And what I'm hearing from you is that every part of your journey in wellness, and I'm happy you shared this, you've been your family and you have been pioneers. Because let's be honest, when you started Wellness Mama, like, that was not a big thing. Not a lot of maybe not as much competition as there is now. And so I really see you as pioneering, and everything that you've done, from what I'm hearing, has really come from tangible real life results that you've taken, deciphered, and created a product or an offer for people, which I think is really amazing. Now, in order for you to be able to scale these businesses, I know that how we met at Dr. Joe Dispenza comes with a lot of personal development. Has personal development always been part of it? Because I know that that's one of the reasons that you've most likely been able to continuously scale your offers and your businesses by continuously growing yourself.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. I've been around the personal development industry most of my life. Growing up, my parents, they were involved in network marketing in Amway way back in the 70s and whatnot. And so part of that, within that industry, there's a lot of personal development that goes along. So I remember reading How to Win Friends and Influence People probably when I was like 12 years old. I think I read Tony Robbins, one of his first books, probably when I was 13 or 14. And so I was around kind of that world, the personal development world, which is very different now than it was back then, but from a very early age. So I'd always been around that space as far as like the power of positive thinking and elevating yourself and improving yourself. And I've always been a voracious reader. Like when I was a kid, when you're homeschooled, there's sometimes you're not around as your friends as much as you'd like because, they're in school, you're not. So to kind of use my time, I would end up reading all the time. So I read the encyclopedia from cover to cover as a kid. I've always been a voracious reader and just love learning, but on my terms. If somebody's telling me what to learn, no, I want to learn what I'm interested in and have always just been that way. That's why I was never a great student in college because, you have to learn this. It's like, no, I don't want to learn that. I want to learn this. And so I'll go do a deep dive on that. So yeah, I've always been around the personal development space and kind of got away from it for many years. And then when life kind of turned upside down, going through separation and divorce, I started really digging back into that. And that was one of the reasons why I was at Dispenza where we met, was I was doing a real deep dive on myself and figuring out who am I outside of the family unit that I had built and the place that I was in the world, and just kind of starting over. Like, what's next for me? Where am I going? What am I doing? Who am I at my core? And so I've done a deep dive on all things personal development and transformation over the past few years.
It's so inspiring. And one of the things that is also for all of you listening, it's like, yes, there are moments in time where everything gets flipped upside down and it really forces us into those nooks and crannies within our being. But also, just from your journey, like I'm seeing that there's always been moments to pause and reflect and renew, especially as you being a coach in the industry and especially creating a product, because there is absolutely no way, I was thinking about this today, there's absolutely no way that you could have such amazing products on the market that are clean, that are certified, that you be able to stand with all of the competition, all of the noise around you, if you are not really solid in yourself. And so I started seeing a correlation with what you're doing, because in order to be a smaller business, right, a smaller entity in comparison to these big corporations, having products that people are really wanting, like it takes a really strong individual and a strong team to do that. And so I would love to know, like, when you're bringing these products to market, and how this podcast came about is, Seth, you've always been someone that pops into my mind. And I was at my friend Rachel, who's a chiropractor's house in Minnesota. We just did a podcast episode a few months ago, and I saw the toothpaste, wellness toothpaste. And then I started seeing all the stuff, and I was like, oh my gosh, Seth. And I wanted to reach back out because that was not the first time. I'm seeing it in so many of my friends' homes. I'm in the world of holistic wellness. That's my jam. I live and breathe it. And so it's not a coincidence that I'm seeing it, but it really takes a really strong individual and a vision to bring this to life. So can you talk a little bit about that? Like, bringing these products to market, has there been a lot of adversity? Has there been a lot of things that you've had to go around hoops and loops, and just that experience? I can't even imagine.
Yeah. Yeah. So we launched the company in January of 2020, and right before COVID. And that was a very interesting time to launch anything. Fortunately, everything was online. So we're primarily direct to consumer. So we had that going for us. But there were definitely some challenges. The biggest one was there were some supply chain issues that we had. We had to push back some of our launches. We had to move things around a bit just because we couldn't get some of our components that were needed, just with all the lockdowns and everything that was going on then. But the biggest thing was the COO who I had hired ended up leaving about halfway through the year. And it was not a great time at all. Kind of left things a little bit upside down. There was a lot of stuff that was happening behind the scenes that I wasn't aware of. And, in hindsight, I should have been paying more attention and been on top of it a bit more. When you hire someone to do a job, you trust them. And so you want to make sure that you don't want to micromanage either. So I wasn't doing that. And so there was a lot of things that had fallen through the cracks. And so when she left, we almost went belly up. We were in the red. There was unpaid invoices. There was just a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that I had to really turn things around. And it was at this place where we had a decision to make. Am I just going to let this company go under and say, hey, we gave it the old college try and that's it? Or am I going to double down and really lean in and turn this baby around? So, because we had taken on investors. So I've done a small investor round. And so those investors, I wanted to make sure that they got their money back, because it's not just a number, it's not just taking on money. They're also friends. And I basically said, I'll be damned before I let them lose their money, because they put their trust in me and that means something. And so we ended up turning things around. I hired someone to come in to manage our products and to handle inventory and logistics, and ended up promoting her to COO and then eventually to CEO, so I could step back and focus on like the bigger picture things. And so there was a big turnaround process that happened. So definitely not easy. We're profitable now and growing. But my formula for success over the years has been do the right things long enough consistently. So if you figure out what those right things are and you're just consistent with them over time, eventually you're going to succeed. You have to, because you're just putting in the time and the effort. And often it's taking the road less traveled and not doing what seems like the easy way, but the right way. And so that's kind of what I focused on and what's brought us to the success that we have now.
Wow, it's amazing. And I know what you just said really resonates with me, because I believe that too, doing the right thing long enough and consistently. And I know that it's not sexy for a lot of people out there, like looking for the magic secret, but it really is that it's continual, consistent growth over time. And that's really what I see in your story. And when it comes to the world of like holistic wellness, organic products, I mean, I think we can both agree that there is a lot of like greenwashing in the industry. There's a lot of products out there that people say are one way and they aren't. Now, was that something that you really was part of your mission, bringing wellness to the market. It's because when I look at the ingredients on every single thing you have, I'm like, I smile because I'm like, it actually is what it says it is. Like, was that ever like, was there any pressure to have other filler or ingredients? Like, how was that journey bringing those to market?
So I focus on quality over quantity. Like that's kind of been part of my ethos for everything that I've done over the years. And so we're B Corp certified, which is one of the hardest certifications to get. And Leaping Buddy verified, EWG verified. Everything, every product that we produce, we want to make sure that it is the cleanest ingredients because what you put on your body, you're putting in your body. And just seeing how much greenwashing there is in the industry, and people will say that it's clean, but it's not really. I don't want to ever make any concessions on the quality of our products. So yeah, there can be pressure to like, oh, use this ingredient or that. This is going to be more expensive than that. So, but it's not about the profit. Yes, we have to make a profit. Otherwise, it's just a hobby. It's not a business. But doing the right things for people, then planet, and then profit, that's the most important part. So everything that we do, all the ingredients that we use for all of our products, they're focused on how good are they for people? Are they natural? How is it affecting the planet? And then is there enough margin here so we can actually make money on it? And so that's been the focus.
Well, and for any of you listening, we're going to make sure that you have access to all of this in the show notes below, because I'm a firm believer that when we have great people behind a great mission with great products, amazing things can happen. And I want to kind of like switch gears a little bit, because for you to bring such a unique platform for people to shop on is really inspiring. But also, I know that you work with a lot of other business owners and you are a business coach and you really work at strategy and digital marketing. And my question is, like, in this day and age, compared to when you started on this journey, like, what are you seeing as the biggest hurdles right now for people in the online space that are coming up consistently? Because we know that it's a very saturated market. That does not mean there's not room for everyone. There absolutely is. But you know, how do people stand out? How are people unique nowadays outside of what you just said about actually being the real deal? Because I think that's something that shines a bright light on its own. Like, we are who we say we are. But what else have you noticed it changing in this industry?
Man, so much. The competition has just gotten so fierce these days. And I see a lot of copycats. They're just looking at numbers. They're seeing, oh, there's an opportunity here. This is a growing industry or niche. So we're just going to create a company and we're going to white label products or sort of something. So I think the best way to really stand out is to differentiate yourself. And whether that's in product quality or messaging or something, but how can we do things differently? And I've seen this time and time again throughout the industry over the years, is where there's just people just see an opportunity and they're just ripping someone else off. And they try to tweak the messaging or say, this is what we're doing, but it's the exact same thing as someone else. I've always looked at it as how can we differentiate and how can I take something from one industry and bring it over to this industry to really do differently? So for example, with my background in marketing, I looked at what was happening in the digital marketing space and brought that over into the health and wellness space and tried to implement it there because that was something that no one else was doing at the time, especially in growing wellness model. Is like we took tactics and strategies that were happening more in the online and digital marketing world before anyone was doing that and just created really high quality content using some of those principles, focusing on SEO and how things are structured and just making sure that the articles were written for the audience and giving them what they were looking for and structuring that the best. And so now even in the e-commerce space, we're seeing the same thing where there's just so many ripoffs, and especially like on Amazon, where if you have your products there, there's all types of softwares where you can see what the sales are and things, and people are just, they're going white labeling something or finding a supplier in China and just trying to do something really similar, but not really differentiating in any capacity. So it's just, how can we get something to market as quick as possible and sell it and make as much money? But that's not built for the long term. I always ask the question, why are you doing this? And if it's not because it's part of your mission, it's because you feel so passionate about it, then don't do it. If you can make money doing anything. So if there's not a bigger why behind it, then stay away from it.
That's such great advice. And I believe that too. It's really about digging deep into that. And one of the things I noticed about you is, I mean, I'm sure you have many parts of your why, but you're a father of 6 kids. Is that correct? 6 of
It
them?
is. Yep.
Like, that to me is just like, I literally am looking at you and your life and what you've done, and it just blows me away, because having the ability to really like have a vision, bring your vision to reality while juggling these other things is really amazing. how old were your kids when you launched Wellness Mama? Was that part of your why? Was this happening before? I'd love to know a little bit about what really drove you.
Yeah. So when that started, my oldest, I'm sorry, was just about a year old, or just under a year old, so very young. And again, that was just some really basic articles that my former wife was just writing and researching just to figure out her own health issues and health topics for her kids. And then fast forward a few years. And so when it really started to take off and she started to be more consistent with the writing, and I really started putting some emphasis into growing it, my oldest was probably 4 years old then. So, and now like he's 18. So time has flown by. But yeah, they are the reason why, I want to leave the world a better place for them. I mean, I think as a father, we all want to leave the world a better place for our kids, whether that's in the products that we're consuming, whether that's the information that we have access to, or whatever the case may be. It's just doing things for our family and trying to improve things in all capacities.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. And I think that like both of the industries that you're in with digital marketing and strategy and also in the wellness space, it's something that we really need people that are, like I said in the beginning, walking the talk and really showing that in their own life. Because I mean, I've been in the wellness industry for over 15 years and even longer watching my dad. And what I've noticed is that there are a lot of really incredible people doing amazing things. But unfortunately, sometimes they're not the people that are really getting the limelight. They're not the ones that are out there. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's a lack of strategy, but I think that more than ever, we need mentorship, really strong mentorship, and really being able to humble ourselves and learn from other people. If someone was to come to you and they wanted to start a new company and they wanted to be in e-commerce, or they like anything that you've done like that, what would you say is the number three, or just three things that you think that people should absolutely be resilient about when starting a new venture or a new business?
That's a great question. I think it may slightly vary based on the industry or what they're doing, but first know your why. Why are you getting into it? Are you familiar with the concept of ikigai, the Japanese term? So ikigai, it's like a Venn diagram. It's what you're good at, what you enjoy, and what there is a demand for in the market. And I think if you can have that overlap of all three of those things, that's where the success happens. You may enjoy something, but if you're not good at it, it's going to be really hard to be successful. You could be, you could have those two. You enjoy it and you're good at it, but if there's no demand in the market, you're also not going to be successful. So you need all three of those things, because then you're passionate about something, you have a skill set around it, and there's also demand. That's where the magic really happens. So I'd say for anyone looking to start a business or get into the online space or physical products, look at those things. And if you don't have all three, it's going to be a lot more challenging.
Well, I mean, that's a mic drop right there. And I agree with that because it's a lot more fun when we're having fun. And a lot of these like crazy topics, and I work with a lot of like dis-ease and different things that are going on with people. And what I realize is like there is a lot of light and fun in all topics, regardless of what they are. And people are looking for that. Like people want to be around a mission. They want to be around a vision. And it's why I'm really drawn to you. And we're actually launching a whole new business in February, and it has to do with everything
Amazing.
from holistic living. And so we're really excited to be affiliates with wellness and be able to bring more of these amazing products to people, because that's part of my mission. It's that the world is more sick than it's ever been. They're more confused, they're more closed off than ever before. And I think we're at a pivotal moment in time right now where things are shifting. Like the world is really shifting, and we're noticing it here in Mexico where I live, where we're from, United States and Canada. Like people are open and hungry and ready to really take action in their life. And so I believe that anyone who's listening to this is really coming for insight, inspiration, motivation, but also like tangible takeaways and places that they can go to really actualize their dreams. And Seth, you're someone that I would recommend to anyone who wants to have strategy, be coached by someone. And so with your experience, your extensive experience in these industries, who are you looking to work with right now? Because I know that you don't
Mm.
open yourself up to everyone.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'm not actively looking for any clients right now. However, if the opportunity presents itself and it's a good fit, then I'm open to that. But typically it's someone that is they have a unique vision for something. They're very conscious about the products they're creating or what they're trying to do. So I enjoy working with entrepreneurs who are getting started, and they have the spending ability where they're willing to invest in their business. They're not trying to do it all themselves. They can outsource a little bit of that. They have a small team around them. So having a background in tech and marketing, I have a lot of resources and connections that can be very helpful for someone, whether that is building out their site, the correct software and tech to use, looking at ingredients, and if they're in kind of the personal care space or things like that, looking at what is the best options there. So it depends on the industry, obviously, but kind of the bigger ecosystem of the tech and marketing is where I really specialize in.
And I'm going to actually run with something you just said when you're talking about people outsourcing and having a team. I mean, I believe that was the biggest lesson for us. I was running a brick and mortar business in Canada for hair loss, and that was something that I always had a team. And going into the online space, into entrepreneurship, there was this weird disconnect between what I did before and what I was doing now. And it's like I became the everything for everyone role. And that was like the fast road to burnout city. That did not work very long. I learned a lot in that time, but I think that's one of the things that I really had to learn to release and build that team around me. And so I love that you said that. I'm curious, when it comes to the digital marketing space, do you still believe that people having a website is necessary? Because we hear all these mixed messages out there about people looking to just use their social, use these platforms, these link trees. Like, what do you think?
100%. Your website is your online home. If you are just focused on your marketing or what you're selling on Instagram or TikTok or something, you're doing what we call digital sharecropping. You are outsourcing your online home to someone else that owns and controls that platform. And if you say something that they don't like, you can get kicked off. If it gets hacked, you could lose it all. If there's some type of shadow ban or anything like that, you may have 1 million followers, but if nobody's seeing it, then who cares? I still think no matter what you're doing, you need to have your online home, your website, your hub, and then your social media, other channels. Those are more like outposts where you're spreading your information there. But the sole goal is to bring them back to your hub, to your online, and everything needs to be focused on that. And I don't think that's going to change. I know a lot of people are getting away from like email marketing and collecting email addresses, and they just would rather have Instagram subscribers or TikTok subscribers or YouTube. And that's great, but that's not a substitute for actually having the reader, the listener, the customer info so that you can actually put your information out to them and they're going to see it because they've opted into it and not just hope that they are because they're a follower.
Well, thank you for that. And I think that is something that, we're always looking to make sure that we're innovating, but, like the basics really do work. And as much as people may be getting away from email marketing, we're actually doubling down on email marketing right now. And so thank you
Yeah.
for that. And Seth, is there anything that you would love to leave with everyone today? I just am so grateful for your time, for your expertise, your vision. I'm excited to share what you're doing with more people, especially our team in the wellness space. But if there's anything that you want to leave with them, I would love to hear what that is.
Great question. I think in everything that we do in life, we have a choice of what we're going to go into, whether that's a business, a job, a relationship. Many years ago, when I was 16, I was at a business event with my father, and I met this guy, very successful businessman, and he had this brand new 1996 Porsche 911 twin turbo, which is my dream car. We were in Chicago, Illinois, and I was just admiring the car. He's like, "You want to go for a ride?" I was like, "Oh my gosh, really?" Yes, indeed. And so he took me for a ride around the loop in Chicago, and we got out. I was just like in awe. I was like, "Thank you so much. This is amazing. I loved it." He was like, "You're welcome." So do me a favor. Every person you come in contact with, and whenever you're out and about, I want you to do something to affect each person's life in a positive way. So I've looked at that throughout my life as everyone that I meet. How can I improve someone's life? And so I think if you wake up in the morning and if you just impact someone in a positive way, whether that's just saying hi to the cashier when you're checking out of the grocery store or texting a friend or just saying, "Hey, thinking about you," or "What's going on?" That goes a long way because we never know what someone is going through. And so it could just be just a smile or a reach out or doing something that positively impact someone that we don't know what the long-term ramifications of that can help make the world a better place.
I agree. And you do make the world a better place because your energy and how you show up in the words you speak, like from the little that I've seen you in person, I just know that energy oozes from you. And I think it's so great that we have people like yourself who are really making an imprint and an impact in the world. And I'm just grateful that you're bringing great products to great people with a vision for sustainability and for the long-term longevity of people being able to have incredible access in their own homes. And if you are interested in shopping with Wellness, please drop into the show notes, click on the link, and we'll make sure that we have everything there for you. Seth, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for you. I'm excited to witness your adventure and what's next. And I am just so grateful you came on here today.
Thanks, Jen. Great chatting.
Thank you so much for joining me on the Living Word podcast today. My hope is that you have something new or a remembrance that you can apply in your life right now. Isn't that the whole point of us learning and growing? To take new understandings and alchemize them through our own human experience? Please like and leave a comment or review if you enjoyed this episode, and share it with people in your life who would benefit from hearing it also. Make sure you subscribe to the Living Word podcast on your favorite platform and be the first to know about upcoming episodes. Sending so much love and gratitude to be on this journey together. See you soon.